Check 1, 2. Okay, guys, so on Illustrator, quiet please, guys. Off your devices, please. Right now, you should just be focusing on your Google Classroom. Illustrator's in the background. We'll flop back and forth, attempt the skill set, okay? So when you open up Illustrator, there's this nice dialog box, but you don't need to use this dialog box. Typically, I tell students to go to File, New, okay? And there's different presets. We talked about this when we did the image trace assignment with our t-shirt graphic. I'm gonna go to Print, click on Letter. And again, if you don't like points, then you can change it to inches or centimeters, and et cetera, et cetera. Landscape or portrait, it's up to you for this assignment. I think landscape will benefit you. Okay, so I'm gonna click the landscape orientation. Don't worry about the rest of the things. Just press create. Now, I'm using the Windows, I'm going to Window, going to my Essentials Classic layout. Okay, I'm going to reset it so it looks like this, and it should look like that for you as well. Clicking spacebar, clicking and dragging, bringing this in. So one of the first steps you're going to do is import your image, or place the image in. Okay, so you're going to go File and Place. Very similar to the t-shirt graphic.
No.
Find your image that you download off the internet and place it. The image should be roughly the same size of 8.5 by 11. And again, guys, your hands up. You gotta, Silva, I can't see you, so you gotta say something.
I didn't hit landscape by accident.
Right now, you should be watching me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, man. Just watch me. All right. Okay, so I brought the image in. Now, if I go to my layers icon, and if you can't find layers, go to Window. It's in alpha order. Go to L, click it. The check mark indicates that it is activated. So this is on layer 1, and I placed it on the screen on the 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to lock it. I'm going to add a new layer. Very similar to Photoshop, right, guys? Yeah? Okay. Why I'm doing that? Well, layer 1 is my original, and I'm going to double click and just call it ORG for original, so I know what my layers are. Layer 2 is where I'm going to design and work my vectors. Okay? So let's drop that down. I'm on layer 2, which is blank. Now you're probably wondering what we're going to do here. Well, you're going to recreate these images. Okay? Well, sir, why can't we use image trace? You could, but the result is going to be poor. And it was done on purpose. The resolution on this, if you can see, the bitmap is poor. Okay? Do you guys see that? All right? So you're going to have to use different means in image trace. We're going to actually recreate these using some of the basic tools in Illustrator. Now, let me demonstrate some of the basic tools on how I would attack recreating this. If you think about elementary schools, the basic shapes, guys, what are the basic shapes?
Circle, square,
Okay,
triangle.
rectangle, circle, and triangle. Very good. So on Illustrator, this tool right here is called a rectangle. If you click and hold it, has rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygonal, star, and I'll be demonstrating those tools and how you can use those tools to recreate these shapes. So tomorrow, guys, you're going to get a image. Every person in this class is going to get a different image with different music notes. They're all going to kind of force you to use these tools, okay? But for plagiarism reasons, everybody gets a different one, and everyone's assigned a different image, okay? So you just can't email and send somebody your vector file, okay? Everybody's going to have their own original image. Okay? So let me explain the selection tool, the direct selection tool, and these series of tools over here. Those are pretty much the main tools you're going to be using. And then your Pathfinder tool are going to be the tools that you're going to be using a lot. I'm just going to throw this into here for now, okay? And I'll explain how it works. All right, so I got my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to zoom in, same way you would do in Photoshop, you know, spacebar, command, and click and drag, or use your command plus or minus, or your scroll wheel. You figure out which way you like to zoom in.
Oh, that's good.
So essentially, guys, this is my fill color. I don't want a fill color for this. So I'm going to tell the fill color to be none, to be null and void. And my strokes be black. You can pick and choose different colors from the color wheel or swatch library to specify what color you want that stroke to be. But do this with no fill and only the stroke. Notice when you have a color on top, you can change that color. But in this case, I want no fill and only stroke. And my stroke thickness will be defaulted by 1 point. Okay, and that's fine. So when I click and drag my rectangle, I'm gonna click and drag, oops, get my mouse, click and drag a rectangle that imitates that size. Okay? Now, you could fill that in right now if you like. It's up to you. Okay? I'm gonna grab another rectangle. Now I could click and drag, or I can get my selection tool, hold Alt on my keyboard. You know you're doing it right when you have a double arrow icon indicating a duplication. Click and drag, and you duplicate it. Little trick, if you hold Shift, it keeps it parallel. I'm gonna grab the edge here because the selection tool allows you to shrink either width or height. And because I want this to be uniform, I'm using the same shape. I'm gonna duplicate the shape over here, holding Shift, and voila, I have those two shapes. Now, how do you think I would do the stem of the music note, guys? Any suggestions? Ellerby.
Same rectangle.
Same rectangle tool. Maybe what I'll do here is click and drag a rectangle like that. Now, there's a nice tool that I'm going to activate called Smart Guides. Now, listen, if you have Snap to Point on and Snap to Glyph, take those off. I'm going to have my Smart Guides activated right here. Smart Guides is kind of an intuitive feature in Illustrator that helps you snap to intersecting objects. So see where it says intersect? It kind of helped me snap the image to that place, right? Now you're probably wondering, sir, you're not over top of the blue. Okay, so I'll bring that over and maybe well, to be honest, I can merge these shapes afterwards, so I'm not too concerned about that. Again, if you're not too happy with the thickness of it, you can click and drag with your selection tool the thickness. Essentially, you're covering the vector. Would it be smart enough to me to duplicate this 2 more times? Yeah. But you know what? I'm going to think through. Wait a minute. Is this circle and all these notes the same? They look the same, don't they? Yeah, agreed? So maybe what I'll do before duplicating it, I'll make this circle and duplicate the whole note multiple times. Does that make sense? Okay, anyways, guys, graphic design is kind of like a fun little puzzle, thinking of strategies and ways to attack and recreating the graphic. Now, this right here is an ellipse or an oval, right? So I'm going to go into my oval tool, okay? I'm going to click and drag an oval. But the thing is, when you do this, you're like, well, sir, it's not in the rotational value of what I see. Go back to your selection tool, and I'm just going to zoom in on here. When you click an object, you get the transform. If you move your mouse just slightly to the corner, you get this little icon that means rotate. You can click and drag and rotate the object. Then you can click and drag and manipulate the width and height to kind of mimic the shape you see, okay? If you grab a corner, and you might have to even just slightly rotate it even a bit more to get it to where you want it to be. Cool? Now, I'm just going to zoom in here. This is where I look for accuracy, is when it intersects. So this is a little tricky, but try to intersect it to the shape as best you can. Okay, nice. Happy with that. So what I can do here is I can select these two objects. For now, go to Object and Group. Grouping is temporary. It's not a long-term solution for merging objects together. Grab this shape with Selection tool, hold Alt on your keyboard. And guys, when I say Alt on Macs, it says Alt Option. Do you guys know where that button is on your keyboard? It's right in between Control and Command. It says Alt and Option. Agreed? You guys see that? Yeah, so that's the button I refer to. So I say Alt because PCs and Mac have the same button. So when I click that, the double arrow appears. I hold Shift to keep it constrained, and voila. And see the intersecting, is it intersect? That's what I want to do, is keep it together. Now, this looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Well, Mr. Almeida, could you have been more accurate over here? Yeah, maybe I could have been. In retrospect, I could have brought the thickness of that shape over to kind of intersect and locked in. Let me zoom in here. So it intersects like that. So you can make it thicker. So in actual retrospect, that's probably a better solution, is to make those thicker. I'm going to delete these. Group these. You can right click and group as well. Alt and duplicate. Nice. Now, if I go to my view mode and go to outline, do you guys note that these are not, it's not a full true vector. There's intersecting shapes. You guys see that? Frankie, you see that? All right. So what I'm going to do is go back to my GPV mode, and I'm going to select all these shapes, provided you're happy with the placement of them. Yeah, it looks pretty sharp there. Select them all, and I'm going to unite and merge them. So on my Pathfinder tool, I'm going to just click and drag this out so you can see this. I'm going to tell the computer these intersecting shapes, the first mode is called unite. Boom. Do you guys see that all the intersecting shapes are gone now? So as long as your shapes are overlapping, you can unite them and they can be all one solid vector. When I'm marking this, guys, I want to see a clean, minimal points on your vector. To be honest, I have a few extra vector points here that I can delete. I'm going to go to my pen tool and delete these points because there's no point of having 2 extra points right here if there's a straight line. So I'm going to tell the computer this point, delete it, and this point, delete, because you don't need points in between. So I'm going to just clean that up. Do I really need 2 points here? No. No. So I'm using the minus tool to delete some of these extra vectors that, not sure what happened here, but those are not needed. Okay. And oh, there was a bit issue there. Not too bad. I would have probably let that go. Nice. So that's just one graphic. Let's ask you guys, how would you attack this portion of the graphic? Any suggestions? Vanessa?
Is there like an arc tool?
Okay.
Line.
What tool does bendy lines? Ellerby?
Is the path?
The path tool? What's it also called? You said pen tool? Yeah, the pen tool. Yeah. So I would probably do a combination of pen tooling. Pen tooling, I'm not really going to go through. You guys should know this from the Photoshop assignments. Okay. Again, I'm going to go to my stroke tool. And like, oh, Mr. Maida, why do you do that? Here, I'll explain why I do that. I'm going to make a mistake. So I'm making my pen path, right? But there's a point where, see how that gets in the way now? I can't see my point. But had I just used stroke, I can see my graphic, right? Okay, hold my Alt tool to refresh the path. So, right, direct selection tool. If you're not happy with your line art, guys, go to your direct selection tool, hover over top the specific anchor point. You can click and drag and move it around. Now, if you find the smart guides gets in the way, click it off, and you can click and drag it anywhere you like without any disruption of it snapping. Okay. Let me just fill that in now. I'm going to get my oval tool, or sorry, elliptical tool, click and drag a circle, holding shift, and bring it in place, kind of put it over top, size it, right? Now, in retrospect, I should probably go in, get my direct selection tool, select that anchor point, no, this one, there you go, click and drag it so it kind of smooths into the shape, right? And then select it, Pathfinder, and weld it together. Should I show you this one, or think you can attack this one yourself? Do you think have I shown you enough to attack this? All right, guys, I'm going to stop my recording. I'll post it on YouTube and then post it onto the assignment. But if you were paying attention, good luck. You may begin.